Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom, and I'm honored to serve you as your senior minister. Our opening words are the poem Postscript by Seamus Heaney. And sometime make the time to drive out west into County Clare along the flaggy shore in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland among stones the surface of a slate-gray lake is lit by the earthed lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffling white on white, their fully grown, headstrong-looking heads tucked or cresting or underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there. A hurry through which known and strange things pass as big, soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. Will you please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 18, What Wondrous Love Is This? Our pledge drive is still on. It's culminating in a celebration next Sunday, March 10th, and our pledge team asks you to consider giving what you can. Our goal is to increase pledges by 10% this year and achieve pledge sustainability for the first time in over a decade. Each and every one of you is such a vital part of our community, and your part, your puzzle piece, completes our picture. We can only do this when every single one of us shares our piece of the puzzle. So each week during coffee hour, during the pledge drive, we're going to be building puzzles together, putting together pictures of this community that were taken by member Jeff Piercy. While you puzzle, our pledge team will be on hand with more information, and of course, we've got pledge drive brochures for you. so you can learn about how your investment supports First Church and how we hope to meet our goals this year. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Ann Alexander, who's going to be offering our pledge testimonial this morning.
Good morning. So you know those CAPTCHA questions that you get on the internet, where you're asked to click a box to confirm that you're human? I am very good at answering those questions. I'm confident, like 98, 99% confident that I am indeed a human, and not some kind of alien robot imposter. However, my confidence is not nearly as great in social situations. Following a friendly conversation with some lovely humans recently, I turned to my husband and asked how these people were just able to come up to us as strangers, introduce themselves, and start finding common interests and points of connection. What is this superpower? You can just walk up to someone and make new friends? If humans are capable of this, my credentials may be a little shaky. So you can imagine that when we moved to Milwaukee, without knowing anyone in the city or the state, I struggled with feelings of isolation and disconnection. Stepping into First Church, I thought, wow, this place is great. It would probably be really nice to be part of this community. But who knows how you can go from feeling like an outsider to feeling embraced and accepted. Perhaps humans with social superpowers, but certainly not me. When Eric and I finally made the big, scary leap into coffee hour, we lurked off to the side, simultaneously nervous that someone might talk to us, and afraid that no one would. Then one person came up and asked if we were new, and proceeded to do that human thing of finding connection with us and being friendly. This was repeated as more and more First Church people generously deployed their superpowers, coming up to greet us and introduce themselves. One by one, we were welcomed by some of the kindest, most interesting humans I've ever met. After a while, these First Church people started inviting us to do more. Take the Journey to Membership class, join a theme circle, serve on this committee, that committee, give a stewardship testimonial. The more involved I became, the more I felt embraced, accepted, and valued as a member of this church. Somehow I found myself on the inside of a vibrant, loving community, and I didn't feel like an outsider at all. So how did this happen? Not through any superpowers of my own, but through the intentional welcome of First Church members. You all are a generous bunch. Without even asking me to click a box, you recognized me as a fellow human in need of connection, and you moved in to make it happen. I may be lacking in social superpowers, but I truly feel that I'm a part of this loving, generous community now, and I'm so grateful for that. Eric and I choose to give to First Church to help sustain this community so that more awkward humans like me can experience your generous welcome. And I hope that you join us in giving this year.
I'm so sorry to share with you the news of a death in our congregation. Nelson Kading died peacefully, without pain, on November 29th, 2023, at Columbia St. Mary's after a long struggle with COPD. Nelson had been living in assisted living at St. John's on the Lake, and St. John's chaplain, Nancy Leafbald, accompanied and supported Nelson at the end of his life, sitting with him and holding his hand in his final hours of consciousness. Nelson died without any living relatives, and St. John's recently learned of his connection to our church and shared with us the news of his death. Nelson was 81 years old and a member of First Church since 2004. He was a reserved, kind man and part of the second service coffee hour crew for many years. It is our tradition in this congregation to light our candle of life for a birth, an adoption, or a death among our members. Today, we light our candle of life in honor of Nelson Kading. I invite you to join me in a moment of contemplation now, which will be followed by silence, followed by the seated singing of the hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123. So do what you need to do to get your body comfortable and centered. Maybe that means feeling your sit bones in the seat beneath you, or maybe it means feeling the top of your head reaching all the way up into the air above you. Or maybe it just means feeling your breath. Spirit of life and love, Holy One of our being and of our becoming, that which is sacred within, among, and beyond us. We know that transformation takes time. Learning builds slowly, cocooning around us as we change molecule by molecule. Let us send some love to all the silken threads of learning wrapping round us. Let us also send love to those who time and transformation has failed. We send love and care especially to Nex Benedict, who was caught in webs of cruelty. We send especially love and care to the children of Gaza, children at the mercy of the demons of rage and power and greed. We gather up our love and our resources and we send them to all of those who are suffering this morning or grieving, all of those whose lives are still on the line. And we whisper hope into the ether that we humans will push our love through the eye of the needle of transformation in time. May we use our hope and our love and our relationships and our power to turn the world around that we might be together in love rather than fear. May it be so.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. I am Ryan Pulowski, and I am honored to serve as your worship associate. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all you are carrying with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We welcome all the people watching online as we live stream this service. Hello, online folks. We especially welcome guests joining us today. If you are a visiting guest, we invite you to fill out a welcome card in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the offering plate that will come around in a few minutes. Please join us for social hour after the service across the hall in the Lean House Common Room. Some accessibility notes: you can find hearing assist devices and large print hymnals and orders of service at the back of the sanctuary, as well as worship activity bags for children and anyone who wants them. There is a fragrance-free area in the front right pews. If you're watching online, you can enable YouTube's closed captioning on your viewing device. If you are having issues, please let us know. And some announcements. Please join our Pledge Committee at coffee hour as our pledge drive continues. We will be introducing our third puzzle today. You can work on that, check out the first two, and reflect on how others have built community through First Church. Our pledge team would be happy to share our goals for this pledge drive and how your investment will support the mission. A new art show, plant-based, is in Lean House Gallery. The artist, Deborah Brooks, will be available today following the second service. And register today for 4 Tuesdays in March with speakers addressing myths and facts in today's society at Interfaith Conference of Greater Milwaukee. There's more information in your order of service. I now welcome you to share in our First Church worship and purpose by inviting you to join me in a unison affirmation of our mission. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Every week, we have an opportunity to practice our values through sharing our resources. Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, the church shares half of all the non-pledge cash in our offering plate with a community organization, practicing our value of interdependence. Today, we share the plate with Peace Action of Wisconsin. Peace Action of Wisconsin is committed to the principles of nonviolence as a strategy to solve problems of human rights abuses, inequality, and war. May the practice of giving bring us joy. The offering will now be gratefully received. You may all look up here and see someone who clearly loves church. I mean, I'm a worship associate, I'm here nearly every Sunday, I'm a pledging member, I've been to General Assembly. You get the picture. I am heavily involved in life here at the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. But the truth is, I hated church. But I am coming to love it. That transformation has been a process, though. Growing up, church meant sitting, kneeling, and standing in an order that I know from my body's experience but cannot fully put into words. It meant standing in a very long line, waiting for communion, and it mostly meant a battle with my parents about whether I was going to go to church at all. And once there, it usually meant getting hit on the side of the head a couple times for not paying attention, talking, or bothering my sister. The place I just described doesn't quite sound like the best place for a queer atheist humanist with lots of questions. And the church's official stance on homosexuality as inherently disordered left me with a deep-seated belief in my own innate wrongness. As a result, I left organized religion entirely, came out as an atheist to my family, and never again stepped foot into a church on a Sunday until March of 2022. Called to my roots, church, by several different factors in my life, I quickly realized that I had to do a lot of work to defang the terminology of my deeply religious upbringing. Because here, when someone talks about God, they aren't usually talking about a man sitting in the clouds doling out judgments to eternal damnation or paradise. Here, those that do have prayer as a part of their spiritual practice do not use it as a bludgeon against others, but as a motivator for themselves and their loved ones. As a result of lots of work and the help of all of you, church wasn't a stifling place anymore where questions were given answers before I even asked the question, but a place where I could come to reflect and connect with other people. To me, church is now the place where I come to practice being human and in relationship with other people. Because I was able to make some small tweaks, I was able to become super involved in the church community, which in turn has been very transformative and helped transform the word itself. I do usually refer to us by our full name, the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, in an avoidance of the word church. I prefer to meditate and reflect rather than pray. I prefer to use may it be so to amen. And depending on the day, I may easily be able to retranslate God into something more palatable to me. On other days, it takes a little bit more effort, and some days I can't get there at all. While it would make me much happier to call this thing that we're all doing here something other than a worship service in a church, it might seem the easier path is to redefine what worship, church, and other theologically triggering words mean to me. Church and the word church now do not hold such a painful and triggering spot in my mind. I even have no problem calling myself a follower of a particular religion, and several of you may note I have quite an affinity for Unitarian Universalist t-shirts. I would now consider myself to be a person of faith, and I even engage in daily spiritual practices as a part of my role as a facilitator and participant in the UU Wellspring program. But I do not have it all figured out yet either. One thing I have learned from Unitarian Universalism is something that I keep close to me in times when I may not agree with the way something is being talked about, And it's a quote from Francis David, one of the forebearers of Unitarian Universalism. We need not think alike to love alike. And that is what we are focused on here, on Sunday and every day. Love. Not love given to us from a God or any source, but love freely given from person to person in an interlocking, interconnected web of life. Thank you.
Therapists who work with traumatized patients will tell you, your system will not allow you to heal the trauma until you feel safe enough to do so. When your brain is in flight or fight, back down in the brain stem, back here, It has powered off your neocortex. That's the rational thinking part of your brain. The amygdala, the nervous system, and the brain's ancient systems of survival are designed for you to survive. They are faster, and they are a lot less complicated than your neocortex. These resources are going to keep you alive the best and the quickest way your brain knows how, which is not by learning new things or trying new strategies. But it's not just trauma that causes this learning stopping effect. It's also just regular old conflict. Think for a second about the last time you had an argument with someone you did not know very well, someone in traffic, or maybe in line at the grocery store, or on the internet. In the heat of that argument, how did it feel in your body? Did your face get hot? Or maybe your body get cold? Did you feel jumpy, or maybe extremely still? Did things get really fast or really slow? If that happened, that was your nervous system responding to a threat, mistaking a conflict for a battle. It was preparing you to survive that battle, either through fighting, or through running, or through locking it down. When you remember how your body felt in that conflict, do you feel particularly open to new ideas? No. No. Is this the time that your system wants to try a new thing? If someone took out a book and started reading it to you at this moment, how much of that book would you absorb?
0.
When your body is primed for battle, it is not primed for learning. It's in survival mode, which is not open and listening mode. A person in fear is not open to change. If your system is afraid, it will not allow your brain to make changes. It won't even allow your brain to listen to the possibility of change. You are going to rely on the same old strategies that you have always relied on, even if you know they haven't been working, because those are the strategies that have kept you alive until this moment. Your lizard brain says, "You're alive, aren't you? So shut up with your new suggestions." In my pre-minister life, I was an advocate for nuclear disarmament. I had a friend at one of my activist jobs, and we shared a passion for nuclear abolition. We were friends for years. We shared confidences and stories. We shared joy and grief. My friend was kind, and he was smart. And we both worked for nuclear abolition because we cared deeply about people, and we loved the world. One day, we were on a walk in Midtown Manhattan, and we stopped to grab a coffee in a park, when he told me that the government he was working for was considering developing a nuclear power program. I stopped cold. What? He was really nonchalant about this piece of information, telling me that his government was looking into save on energy costs, and that there was no reason the big powers should be the only ones with access to nuclear technology. He worked for a country that was a member of the non-aligned movement, which is 120 or so countries that are neither aligned with the Western nor the Eastern Bloc. I was stunned by his news. I felt betrayed. Here was my buddy working with me in the trenches for nuclear abolition, casually toying with the idea of nuclear energy. I confess that I lost it a little bit. I began a rapid-fire, extremely heated list of reasons why this was a terrible idea, from US propaganda about nuclear power simply being a bill of goods to sell their nuclear weapons program, to the exorbitant cost, to its Chernobyl meltdown capacity, to its never-ending toxic waste. I rattled off per kilowatt-hour numbers. I talked about toxic mining and waste practices, and the fact that the people who are creating the containers to store nuclear waste design them in pictographs because the nuclear fuel rods that are spent will be deadly longer than any human language currently spoken will exist. And I ended in a big harumph with the fact that not only was it all a lie, a propaganda machine designed to convince people to accept United States nuclear weapons program, but it was also the key that would unlock the door to nuclear weapons for any country that made the choice to follow a nuclear energy program. I told him point blank that if he was really, actually, truly committed to nuclear disarmament, he would never even consider a nuclear energy program in his country because it would inevitably spread nuclear weapons around the world. My friend looked at me a little startled. I had never been angry with him before. In 4 years of friendship, I had never spoken to him this way. He raised his eyebrows at me and he said something along the lines of, "Okay." And that was that. We made our way slowly back to the east side in awkward tension, and I felt a little embarrassed, but also still hurt and frustrated. We hugged goodbye, and we didn't talk for maybe a year. And then, around a year later, he called me up to share some big news with me. He got me on the phone and he said, "I won!" And I was like, "Great! What did you win?" And he told me that he won the nuclear power debate in his government's State Department. And I was like, what? My friend told me that that moment we had in the park, he listened and he went back to the sources that I cited in my 5-minute rapid-fire tirade, because of course I cited my sources. And not only did he read the books and the articles that I rattled off, but he also kept digging and doing his own research. He read everything that he could get his hands on, and he changed his mind about nuclear power. He came to the conclusion that yes, it was indeed a boondoggle that would not only cost his country money and expose them to the horrific toxicity and danger of nuclear reactors and waste, but that it would also spread the technology that is used to build nuclear weapons. He began actively campaigning against nuclear power in his State Department. Now, there was another man in his State Department that was equally campaigning just as hard for nuclear power, and these two duked it out for more than a year until finally his director made the decision to not pursue a nuclear energy program in his country. I was totally stunned. I had no idea about everything that he had been doing to prevent his country from going down this dangerous and toxic road. But even more, his country was one of the major disarmament experts in the non-aligned movement. They were who the non-aligned movement looked to for wisdom on all things nukes. So their decision to not pursue nuclear power was going to affect another 120 countries around the world. My friend's transformation was a really big deal Transformation is a process. Yes, in this story, there was a moment of transformation in the park, but my friend did not suddenly become a butterfly in that moment, nor did I. There were years of preparation that led up to it. For me, there were years of study, of learning information over and over in different ways through books, yes, and articles, but also through people. Through my friends and my loved ones who had been working at nuclear power sites or nuclear mining sites or nuclear testing sites, whose hearts and minds were scarred with a bomb-shaped outline that imprinted itself on me. But even more importantly than that, there were years of friendship. There were years of laughing over coffee and trusting one another with confidences and opinions and growing ideas. Years of walking and talking and learning. There were the subtle cues of safety that can only come through relationship. The relaxed shoulders, the open eyes, the slow, rhythmic breathing that tells the body it is in safe company. Transformation is a series of small changes, building over years that eventually can lead to that massive move through the eye of the needle of transformation. And it's that eye that we like to talk about, that we like to jump through, that we like to jump for. But it's the years and years of buildup of small changes that enable that sudden, spectacular butterfly move. There was a time of cocooning, of slow wrapping, learning like silk threads around the body, a time of letting go in safety to explore, a time of becoming a big mess, and then a time of slow rebuilding before the moment that the butterfly breaks through the threads. In the human world, so often the safety of the cocoon is relationship. Study after study shows that human beings change through relationship, not through books or memes or a particularly powerful article. Those things can be useful learning, yes, but they are usually only taken seriously when handed to us by someone with whom we are in a relationship of trust. The New York Times published an article in 2018 about Derek Black, a former white supremacist who changed his mind after attending New College and developing friendships with immigrants and Jewish people. He was slowly changing, moving away bit by bit from an ideology of hatred and questioning what he had been taught as a child. But it was in a loving relationship that included challenge with his girlfriend that all the small movements build up to the final break with his white supremacist family and ideology. And in that relationship with his girlfriend, they argued. And yes, she sent him articles. But he was able to digest them in the context of a relationship he trusted. And eventually he changed his mind. He became part of a movement of what is called formers, people who found their way out of hate groups and now counter-recruit, undermining theologies of hate and inviting more people to change. If you go back to the way that you were feeling at the beginning of the sermon, when you were in a conflict with someone you didn't know, how might how you were feeling change if that conflict, while still hot, was with someone that you trust? Is it possible once you've had a moment to calm down, to go back to the argument and explore? Is it possible to learn more from your loved one? Are there places that you can find new flexibility, new opening because you feel connected and held in love and trust? Transformation is a long and sometimes slow process with sudden bursts of breakthrough. And we work a long time to enable those bursts. Lifelong commitment to change is what enables those sudden, beautiful, brilliant butterfly breakthroughs. And relationship, love, trust, and safety enable those beautiful, brilliant butterfly breakthroughs. Our minds are capable of learning and new insights when we're relaxed. Challenge and even conflict can be good for us if we braid it in with trust, when it is held in healthy, loving relationship. Transformation becomes possible in the restful space. The restful space of taking a walk or taking a breath or lying down on the beach and looking up at the stars. We can open ourselves to new insight, to the big changes, braided from all the small ones when we relax our mind enough to explore and allow those breakthroughs to emerge from our gathered experiences and shifts in understanding. We may never feel fully ready for the massive changes that happen in our lives or in the world. There's no posture of crouching readiness at the starting line for running the race of change. The ready is relationship. In church, in school, in your job, in your family, relationship enables change. It enables learning. Because we learn through each other. We learn through love and through trusting another person's integrity and their commitment to our highest good and the good of the world. This is how we turn the world around, one by one, loving and learning one another into wholeness and liberation. May it be so. Friends, we need transformation in this world. And the big, beautiful butterfly breakthroughs come from a long buildup of slow, small changes. So let's get in relationship. Relationships of love and trust, and commit ourselves to the lifelong work of love, bending the arc of time towards justice, turning the world around. May it be so. Will you rise in body or spirit for our recessional hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire?